If you haven't been to an all-inclusive resort lately, or ever, forget what you think you know, starting with those bottomless buffets. Sure, you can still find them, but now you can also find everything from locally sourced organic wellness menus to multi-course Michelin-starred tasting menus. Same goes for those sun-baked days spent entirely in a lounger. Of course, that's still an option, but amazing alternatives are turning up everywhere from brand new dedicated pickleball courts to beachside flying trapeze schools. The point is, all-inclusives are starting to, well, include a lot more. And now's the perfect time to explore the possibilities. Here to share his own experiences and insights is AAA's own Julio Soto, a travel product manager at the Auto Club Group. Julio Soto, welcome to Well Traveled with AAA.
Thank you, Abby. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Pleasure to have you back. So let's start with just a quick refresher course on what an all-inclusive resort actually is. For listeners who've never been, could you just walk us through the basics of the concept?
Of course, but historically, by definition, the all-inclusive is just taking a standard hotel or resort stay and really stacking it up with value, right? So you're staying at a place for 5 nights, and all-inclusive will, enable you to have multiple dinners and meals included, beverage packages included, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. The activities part of your all-inclusive experience is also embedded in there, so that you can do snorkeling and you can, sort of go on a sailboat. So there, it's a combination of meals and beverages and activities. That's by definition what an all-inclusive is.
Great. And what kinds of travelers are these resorts good for, would you say?
I think that's a great question, because now that the all-inclusive concept has evolved so dramatically, it used to be that it's just a sort of sun seeker, right? Somebody who just wants to sit by the beach and just not worry about anything, which is, by the way, is still a great thing to do with these all-inclusives. But now we're seeing very intrepid travelers wanting to go to these properties to take advantage of the other elevated activities that are available to everybody. I'll just give you like a few examples. I mean, the culinary scene and the cuisine has been elevated to a place where, you could be eating in a 5-star restaurant in New York or Los Angeles or London now in an all-inclusive. And things around education in terms of sports and wellness and mindfulness, all of that is included. And on top of all of that, these all-inclusives, some of the brands also cater to families. So you have a gamut of folks that can take advantage of this at all budgets, at all interest levels. It's really, really a cool experience.
And you mentioned families, you mentioned sun seekers, wellness seekers. How about couples?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, the all-inclusive concept, traditionally speaking, when it was really blowing up in like the 70s, 80s, and even early 90s, they really catered specifically in the Caribbean and also the Mexican Riviera to honeymoon couples. So the idea that as a couple you can still go and enjoy it and relax is very much well and alive in the all-inclusive concept.
Ready to escape to paradise and disconnect from everyday life? Whether you're dreaming of lounging on pristine beaches, indulging in gourmet dining, or just relaxing by a pool, an all-inclusive resort has it all. Let us help you book your next unforgettable getaway. Visit AAA.com/travel. Clearly, we've talked a bit about sort of the old idea of the bottomless buffet and just sort of chilling out for entire days at a time on a lounger. I think another old preconceived notion about these properties is that they're just kind of generic mega resorts that could be anywhere under the sun. Could you talk to some of the ways that idea is evolving too?
Oh, I think that's a great point. We could tape an entire show on the importance of architecture to these all-inclusives. So I can tell you that they are being very thoughtful and sustainable when they're building these resorts now, specifically brand new ones across the Caribbean and across the world, really. So a lot of them stick to local culture, local fabrics, you name it. I mean, when you are going into these resorts, they speak very eloquently to the area. I was just in Mexico in Cancun earlier this year in January, and the entire theming of our all-inclusive was so beautifully done with Mexican culture. I mean, they had these incredible murals that were painted in homage of Frida Kahlo, and I am a huge fan. So just to like wander around the restaurants and looking up at these absolutely just beautiful murals alone kind of transported me outside of that all-inclusive into an art gallery, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So they're being very thoughtful on how they build, where they build, using local workers and craftsmen to make sure that everything is in sync and in tune with that local culture.
And is there also sort of a broader idea of tying to the local community?
Oh, absolutely. And that was one of the most profound things that I learned, right, when I was in Cancun. In this specific case at Club Med, they are very in tune with the community. I mean, everything from empowering and helping to sponsor local schools, right, for youngsters. They hire local craftsmen. The entire culinary staff is local, therefore sort of infusing that wonderful local cuisine and flavor. And, they're sourcing locally from farms as well. So when you think about the impact that, as an example, a 600-room property has, right, on a small island or a stretch of beach in Mexico, that property is positively impacting thousands of people. And folks just don't understand that. And I just love it. Oh, and some of these all-inclusives actually create curriculum so that locals can learn on site and in real time the hospitality and tourism industry. So they're actually learning while they're working and getting degrees and really trying to get career pathing done for folks that may not have had that opportunity before. So it is an entrenched entity now within these local communities.
Yeah. And then speaking about local cuisine in particular, could you talk about some of the most amazing examples that you experienced?
Yes. And remember that all-inclusives can be found globally, right? So, I mean, you could just imagine what an all-inclusive in Phuket, Thailand might bring you, as it relates to culinary, or if you're in the French Alps or anywhere. So for Caribbean and Mexico specifically, because it is so close to all of us here in the U.S., I just love Mexican food. And when I was in Cancun, I am a big fan of mole. And I remember loving the dish so much with this red mole sauce that I was just like having this just euphoric, experience over that. The chef came out and said, I'm here to thank you because we're here to share the beauty and the bounty of Mexican cuisine. And I was just so taken back by the chef because of our wait staff was like, hey, this guy's freaking out, right? So, right. And I was loving it so much. And because I speak Spanish, I was like, this is the most delicious thing I've ever had. The chef came out and he was like, let me tell you that when we get feedback like this, it really thrills us because what we are really trying to do, even in an all-inclusive scenario, is highlight the nature and the beauty and the tradition of Mexican food. So that's the type of thing that happens now. And that hasn't heard of 10 to 15 years ago when you're at an all-inclusive. For a chef to come out and talk about how he or she is really bringing the mole concept to a lunch is unheard of, but it is the reality. And that's what's so thrilling about this.
And for listeners who have not yet had the joy of devouring a good mole, could you talk a little bit about what that is?
Oh, it's just this traditional sauce, and I don't mean that disrespectfully because there's so much more than a sauce. But for those who are listening, it's just traditional sauce that the culinary folks in Mexico created, and then it's different colors. I mean, there's green mole and red mole, and there's mole with chocolate, which is my favorite. Yeah. So this mole had chocolate in it, and it's just but to back up, it is a traditional dish, right? It's not a westernized version of what Mexican folks eat. So it's like, it was so real. And it was such a real moment for the person who created to come back and say, I'm so proud of what we're doing with this. And it's just a sauce, Abby. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Embark on your next iconic travel experience. With the help of a AAA travel agent, you can book a resort vacation that's perfect for you and enjoy the exclusive member benefits and unbeatable values you can get only at AAA. Find a AAA travel agent by visiting AAA.com/travel. Could you walk us through a day in the life of a fun, modern, all-inclusive, whether you want to use your own recent experience as an example or others in the world, just to give listeners a sense of like what the day looks like?
I think that's a great question because I feel folks don't even realize how much activity is available to you while you're at an all-inclusive. I mean, the day can start very early. I remember looking out my balcony out to the water, to the beach in Cancun, and there were already folks paddleboarding at 7:30. And they were probably there even before then. So you can start very early. They had early morning yoga, which I think is really cool on the beach, right? So you can start with an early morning paddle boat, or you can do some yoga and then, sort of ease into an early afternoon game of pickleball. And then you can relax by the beach in the afternoon. And then you come back in the evening for a wonderful dinner beachside, and then they have activities throughout the day. And obviously, they even have entertainment in the evening, which I thought was really great because they had local Mayan dancers and singers, which was incredible. So again, the idea behind this is to do as much as you want or as little as you want, knowing well that there's so much around you to do. And I was taken back by the amount of sports centric activity that was available for these folks. I mean, again, I mentioned pickleball. That was really huge. I was there at 8:30 in the morning going to breakfast, and there were about 30 guests taking pickleball courses at 8:30 in the morning, which I thought was really great. And they have archery. And like you said earlier in the intro, they have a trapeze school. I mean, who thinks of going on a trapeze as a form of entertainment and exercise while you're at an all-inclusive? Well, guess what? That was part of the curriculum as well. So I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah. And were there any other offerings on property there or elsewhere in your experience that really defy people's expectations and understandings of all-inclusive resorts?
Yes, one of the pillars and tenets of all-inclusives as we move forward, right, is the idea that they want to help their guests reconnect with nature. And it's specifically in a place like the Mexican Riviera, but you could have this experience anywhere. I mean, they take you sometimes outside of the resort as part of an excursion, as an example, to go bird watching or to do scuba or snorkeling by the reef that's only like 50 yards off the beach in Cancun. That's incredible to me. So don't think of it as just, beach chairs and all these other things. It's a reconnection to the community. And it's also a reconnection with nature. And I thought that was really beautiful as well. I remember, and you're going to laugh, but the resort sits on a freshwater lagoon off the beach. And it's preserved by the Mexican government. And it's a crocodile refuge, right?
Wow.
Everyone's safe. They're far from it. But there's a restaurant that you could have lunch in that overlooks the lagoon. And the resident crocodile, he's a male and he's huge. He's like 16 feet long, and it's a natural treasure for Mexico. And he kind of just drifts along the side of the restaurant where you are, and you're looking down at this magnificent creature that's being preserved. So that was a really humbling experience because, it's a dinosaur and people are like that, but his name is Charlie. And everybody's like, well, it's Charlie the alligator or the crocodile rather. And the idea that they want you to leave not just with the cultural aspect and the culinary aspect of a beautiful place like the Mexican Riviera, but the appreciation of nature is there. And I think Charlie the crocodile is just an example, but
absolutely,
that's how close you are to all of it. It's really pretty cool.
Getting ready to travel? Make sure you and your travel investment are protected with travel insurance so you can do more and worry less. For more information about the benefits of travel insurance, visit AAA.com/travel insurance. That leads perfectly into the next thing I wanted to ask you, which is just in terms of beautiful nature and the elements and sort of the overall offerings, what are some other parts of the world that really stand out or, even other parts of the Caribbean for great all-inclusive resorts?
It's a great question. I mean, and again, there are, all-inclusives on a global scale. So the idea that you can go to some of the most beautiful beaches in the world, as examples, right? So you've got the Turks and Caicos in the Caribbean, you have the Dominican Republic, obviously the Mexican Riviera, you have all-inclusives in Jamaica. But if you start to expand and broaden that, conceptually speaking, I mean, Thailand, the Philippines, you can go to some of these incredible places, the Maldives, and, those are some of the more popular. And again, when you get to French Polynesia, like Bora Bora, you are getting some exquisite scenery, stunning scenery, incredible cultures. But those are a little more exotic in nature. You don't have to go that far to take advantage of all-inclusive. But keep in mind that you can start elevating your own all-inclusive experience as you zigzag around the world. So you can start in the Caribbean and Mexico to get a feel for what that all-inclusive is like. And then you can just take that, transport it globally. And I think that's what's really cool. And of course, they have all-inclusives in Europe as well, like in Greece and in Spain. So there is that Sunseeker element to it. But what I also have discovered, which I think is the coolest thing, is that there's also sort of like a mountain adventurous side of it too. So if you wanted to go to the French Alps or the Swiss Alps and do some hiking or even skiing, there are all-inclusives that are internationally themed that are also really spectacular and beautiful as well.
Are you enjoying Well Traveled with AAA? Subscribe to this podcast today and share your thoughts on ratings and reviews. Just to make sure everyone understands, we've alluded to it a little bit, but it's not literally every experience on offer at these resorts that's included in the overall price. Spa treatments, for example, tend to come at an extra cost. Maybe you could share just another couple of examples to give people.
Sure. I think that's a great one to start with because, the spa element of these experiences is very top notch. I mean, you go to any spa globally, these can rival that. So the treatment themselves are high caliber, best in class. And yes, they usually do have extra charges for those. The beauty of it is that you can get them packaged so that, you can combine a massage and a facial as an example. And they're all very, very competitively priced. I think people don't even second guess it because it is part of that kind of mindfulness and relaxation part of it. And also any excursions that are over and above what is offered to the customer is also extra. Here's the thing, though. They have in-house excursion offices so that you can sit down with a concierge and say, hey, yeah, I would love to do this, but can I customize it? Can I go at this hour instead of a planned hour? So even though it's an extra cost, it is customizable. And I think it's always a lot of fun. But I will say this, though, that even with the extra charges, when you start doing the math, right? As consumers and as avid travelers, everyone has their budget. That is just the way it goes. So when you're doing the math and you're adding up what the all-inclusive is going to include, right? And the fact that it's a cashless society. Once you get there, they give you an armband or an identifier, and then you literally can leave your wallet in that safe, in that room, and never look at it again till the day that you leave. Think about how stress-free that is. Think about how you have to pull that wallet out, right, when you're on vacation at times and how frustrating it is. Well, that's the coolest thing about these all-inclusives, that when I was in Cancun, I just put my wallet away and I just relaxed, truly exhaled, which is very rare these days. So even though they're extras, the idea is what you're getting, you have budgeted for it, and then all you have to do is sit back and enjoy it. And I think that's the beauty of it for sure.
Well, you may have just teed yourself up perfectly for the last question. What does well-traveled mean to you?
I answered this question with you a couple of years ago, and I feel that it's changed a bit. And I will tell you that to me now, it validates and reinforces and brings to the forefront the true beauty of humanity. And I know that sounds a little like, what? Going to Mexico twice, actually, in January, it just brings home the idea that we're all so similar. I mean, yes, we have different cultures and different beliefs and you name it, but the idea that chef came to me specifically to thank me for enjoying a sauce validated the beauty of why we travel is that human connection. I don't care what else you do on this vacation. Yes, the beach was great. And that moment in time, looking up, by the way, that was happening while I was staring at the Frida Kahlo mural, right? So I see Frida Kahlo on the left, this wonderful gentleman saying, thank you for sharing your enthusiasm for our country's wonderful culinary experience. That to me is why I just love it, because the human connection is true. It's there. It doesn't matter what's happening in the world. We're all people. And when you connect that way, it just is the most wonderful, wonderful, heartfelt feeling you can have.
Well, Julio, that's, I think, the most beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abby. It's always a pleasure doing
Likewise.
this. Thank you.
You can find all of our interviews with other travel experts from around the world on the Well Traveled with AAA feed on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We hope you'll rate us or leave a comment and let us know what you think. I'm Abby Kozolczyk. Thanks for listening.